Hi everyone, welcome to this overview tutorial of AE Pixel Sorter version 2. So I've changed a few things from version 1, mainly the UI has been improved. The plugin also processes a bit faster and it also processes 16 and 32 bits. And there are a lot of new features which I'll explain in this tutorial. So I'll do an overview on how to use it, but feel free to go to pixelsorter.info in section tutorials and documentation to know more on how to use the plugin in more complex and creative ways. I also invite you to follow Pixel Sorter plugin on Instagram, where I repost most of the interesting stuff people do with the plugin. So let's start in After Effects, where you can find the plugin under Pixel Sorting category. I've separated most of the settings under three sections: input, process, and output. So let's focus on the process section for now, where you can find the threshold setting. This is the main setting that controls the look of the plugin. Threshold is at the core of pixel sorting algorithm, where it defines what portion of the image will be sorted. So because we're set in affect highlights, you can see that the brighter zone of the image are affected first. If I change this to shadows, it inverts the threshold and the darker area of the image are affected first. Where threshold is acting is defined by the trigger setting. By default, it's set to luminance, so it starts and stops sorting around a certain threshold based on the brightness values of the pixel. You can change this setting so it triggers around the red channel, green, blue, and some other comparison between the pixels. Saturations and hue are new to this version too. As you can see, with saturation mode, it can affect the image where the saturation is at its lowest or highest. One of the new additions is the angle setting, where it will adjust the angle of the effect according to the angle you give. This can of course be keyframed for cool animations. Invert sorting will simply reverse the sorting order of the pixel streaks. So instead of being sorted from the darkest to the brightest, they will be sorted from the brightest to the darkest. Speaking of sorting the pixels, the sort by settings tells the plugin how to sort the pixels. So by default, it's by their luminosity. So as I said, they will be sorted by their brightness values. And to see that, I'm gonna crank the threshold so we affect the whole image. So you see that on the right I have the darkest pixels, and on the left I have the brightest pixels, and that's because I'm sorting by luminosity. If I change that, for example, to saturation, you see that on the right I now have the lower point of saturation, and on the left the pixels that have more saturation. And that's same thing for the hue, where all of the blues will be on the left towards the green and towards kind of the reddish. Another new feature is the block size. This one will create bigger blocks of sorted pixel and gives a fresh, interesting look to pixel sorting. Now let me change COM to show you some of the other settings, starting with length. This will control the maximum length each streak will have. By the way, the setting goes negative, so for example, you can animate it from minus 100% to plus 100. Offset is in the same idea, and it defines where each sorting streak will start. Combined with the length setting, you can animate the effect passing through the image. I got a lot of questions from that Instagram post where people were wondering how to achieve this with Pixel Sorter. So I'll show you, as this is a great example of how to use cycle. So first I'll mask out the region I want the effect to be applied to. I'll choose an interesting threshold and change the angle so it kind of fits the direction of the screen. Then I'll change the trigger to saturation to affect the areas of high saturation in the image. Here, the keyboard, the screen icons, and leaving the borders of the screen intact. Then, I'll animate the cycle from 0 to 100 a few frames later. I'll add an expression so this animation loops, and that's it. That's how I made it. By the way, in the next version of the plugin, I'm going to change this UI for a rotation UI, similar to the angle setting, so you'll be able to animate the cycle indefinitely, and you won't have to do this expression trick. And that's just to show you another cool example of the cycle feature, combined with a large block size. Now a bit of the input section where you can see the source setting. So by default, we are affecting the image by analyzing itself. So the sorted pixels correspond to the image we see. But if we want, we can change the image analyzed. We could choose, for example, to take this frame, place it into the same comp, and selecting this layer in the source layer. Now when we change the threshold, you see that I'm sorting my image, but with the analysis of the other frame. I could even change the trigger to red channel, so it's more obvious in that case. So this can be up for cool transition. I'll let you play with that. Another new feature is the gradient output, where instead of outputting sorted pixels, we make a gradient between the first and the last one. That is technically not pixel sorting, but I think it can create really awesome looks. By the way, the gradient option works better if we use the smooth source setting, so I'll explain what it does. So sometimes when we find the effect is a bit harsh or flickery, the smooth setting can approximate the region affected by the plugin and create a smoother selection. If I bring back the gradient option, you see that it gives a better look. As before, you have the output matte option to show what portion of the pixel has been affected, and the map option, which shows the first and the last pixel of each sorted streaks. I've also added Preserve Alpha channel. If you want to make a mask and constrain the effect within the mask, well, just check this box. So that's it for the overview tutorial. If you want to see more tutorials and documentations, visit the website and please share what you are doing with the plugin by using #PixelSorter and my Pixel Sorter plugin account on Instagram. Thanks, and see you soon.